video we will be looking at attaching the hair. So let's just talk about the hair. The hair you get from any supplier basically. They come in these little packets of 100 centimeters wide, and you can choose whether it's curly, whether it's straight, what color you want, and obviously the length you want. The one thing I would urge you to do is just see, it's not always possible, but if you can get a hair weft where this sewn, where they've stitched it together, is more or less the same color as the hair, that would really make your life so much easier. It's not always possible. I just want to show you this doll. You see her stitching isn't the same as the hair color. Although I've bought this from the same supplier, and one of them had the darker stitching and one of them had the normal stitching. So if it's at all possible, maybe just try and find out or see if you can get it where the stitching is more or less the same color as the hair. Because as soon as you start to attach this, you see where the darker stitching is. It's so much easier to see. If I just do this, you see the darker stitching shining through. So the idea with attaching the hair is you work in a spiral motion, in rounds. You're going up towards until you get to the little crown. So what I've done here is I've measured from my neckline, I've measured where I want my hairline to start, 12 centimeters. So I've measured at 12 centimeters straight all around the head. And then I've measured 1 centimeter intervals where I'm going to be attaching my hair all the way around until I get to the crown. So my crown from my neck up into the crown is 19 centimeters all around. So we're starting with the 12 centimeter where we want our hairline to start, and then we're moving upwards in a spiral motion. Now, ideally, we would want some hair at the back as well, like this one. I did with some hair at the back. As soon as you put a hairband in your doll's head, so that your hairline doesn't start there, but at least you have 2 rows of hair, it just gives it a more natural look. The problem with these dolls are the head is quite big, so the circumference that your hair is going to be going around is quite large. So the length, I've got 2 packs of hair in the same color here. So I'm not going to start at the back. I'm going to start at my 12 centimeter hairline and work in spirals all around. So let's do that. If you have any hair left, or if you feel comfortable in using more hair, you can obviously start at the back, but then you are only going to be attaching it from that seam line to this seam line, just at the back 2 rows, and then at the 12 centimeter hairline you are going to start going all around. Once again, the easiest way to do this is to put her onto your lap and then start to attach the hair. There's my 12 centimeter hairline, the first one. I'm just going to start. You can choose to glue this on, you can choose to stitch it on by hand. Whatever you feel is going to be better for you, you do that. I don't draw the lines, I just kind of follow my marks to get there. You can have some pins that you can put there just to keep them in place until the glue is dried. Okay, then we turn and then we just continue doing this. So the basic idea is just the spirals that you go all around. So as we now get to our second indication, we are just going to try as far as possible stay to the side, and then as we've moved past the side seam, we will go towards the next mark. So make sure you only increase after the side seam so that your front hairline, it's not skewed. Just make sure you press down so that it does attach to the fabric. Okay, so now we've reached this hairline or the seam line again, and only after the seam line we will go to the next start to increase. We're not going to start increasing from there. We'll only first get the next mark, and then from there we'll start to increase. So there you see, we are just working in spirals all the way around. So ideally don't want these large open spaces, but you'll see as soon as we attach the crown, because the closer we get to the crown we are going to be attaching the hair close to each other. So as soon as the hair falls over this way, you won't see all of these open spaces. But if you do have enough hair, you can then afterwards go and fill in these little spaces. I would recommend you only do it for the front. You see, then it's much more visible at the front. So I would then fill in the top, the front part of the head and not so much the back, because you'll see it will cover up nicely. Don't be too stingy with the glue. Remember, if you want to brush your doll's hair afterwards, you don't want to be brushing and then the hair wefts come loose. So you see, you are starting to close the circle. So as you get to this little fabric that is standing up a bit, as soon as you glue it, just apply some pressure to it, and then you'll see it will kind of just lie down. So you see, you will just then apply some pressure and it will lie down. Okay, so about now we would like to start putting these wefts much closer to it. Okay, so I've just changed the angle here so that I can show you exactly what we want to do as we start to close on this crown. Like I said, easiest is to grab the doll, put it between your legs, and then it's going to be so much easier, because then you only have to handle the hair instead of trying to manage the doll and the hair. Okay, so let's finish up this crown. So now we want to be attaching these hair wefts close to each other. Because you'll see we're now starting to close this little crown. So just continue. So now we need to close that hole. So what we want to do is we want to leave a small little tail. We don't want the tail to be too long. So let's just cut this here. Because what we're going to do is you're going to roll it and glue it in place as you keep on rolling it. And when you get to the center, you are going to be gluing it into the center, so it makes like this little fountain or crown she has on her head, and then you're going to glue that in place. Okay, so it looks like this little tail is just going to be long enough. So now what we do is we're going to just glue it in place, and as you roll you need to keep on gluing it and try and get it as tight as possible. So if you're now happy, so now what we're going to do is we are going to, so I'm going to put some glue into this hole. I'm going to put my little hair weft that I've just rolled in there, and then I'm going to be pressing down, because I want to be sure that this is going to take. You can just comb out this glue afterward and then just press down. So now for this, you can see we have used just about 2 hair wefts. So if we see here, we can still see that there might be some open spaces. So you can take your extra hair weft that you have now, and then you can go and fill in all of these little spaces if you want. Alternatively, you can, when you start doing this, make the gaps between them a little smaller. But just bear in mind that as soon as you make that smaller, you are going to use a whole lot more hair. And maybe just be mindful, just do it in the front, because you see at the back it's not that obvious, but in the front, if we kind of part the hair and put a little hat on or anything in that line, we might see the spaces in between so much easier. For us to recap this, we are working in spirals all around the head up to the crown. For your hairline, you want to be measuring at 12 centimeters from the neck. That's where your front hairline should be. With my piece of hair weft that I had left, I've added 2 rows extra at the back that is about 2 centimeters apart, starting from the 12. There's the 12 centimeter hairline that goes right around, and that's where we start our spiral. Then I've attached 2 pieces of hair at the back, so that will just give my doll's hair some length. And at the front, I've filled up some of my extra hair wefts. I've filled up the gaps. So as soon as the closer you get to the crown, there's a point in time where you will start to attach the hair wefts close to each other. As you get to the little center crown, you will then roll your hair wefts and then attach it into that little hole. just make sure that beforehand the little tail that you've left for the hair weft is long enough when it's rolled to fit into that little hole and to cover it up nicely.